Welcome to this Business Central launch event session on What's New in Telemetry. In this session, I'm going to showcase new telemetry features, new data, new signal. A pretty cool, I think, new thing that we have in a beta program for a Click Once Power BI report that I hope will make telemetry much easier for you to use. I'm going to show you how you can host notebooks with GitHub Codespaces, and then we'll end up with some learning resources if you want to learn more. So let's get started. Let's talk about new signal, new data that was added to Business Central, not only in this release, but also the prior release, because we didn't have any Business Central launch event specifically on telemetry last year. A new feature we added with telemetry is that you can now troubleshoot what a user experienced back in time. I mean, that's what telemetry is all about, is that you can troubleshoot things back in time. But until this release, you had no idea of which user it was, because that's anonymized in telemetry, which is a good thing. We are privacy compliant. We found a way to still be privacy compliant or GDPR compliant with that telemetry resource, but also make it possible to track who it was. And this is a trick similar to when you have a certificate in security, where you are able to rotate that certificate. It's the same idea here. We have a new field on the user card called Telemetry ID. And instead of locking the user ID to telemetry, which would then make that telemetry GDPR compliant or privacy compliant, because now you have an end user identifiable ID in telemetry. We lock this telemetry ID instead. And this telemetry can be rotated on the user card, meaning that if you need to break the tie from Business Central user table to the telemetry resource, you just go into the user table and rotate that, or you can even turn it off by just setting this telemetry ID to a null GUID. Now, this is very useful because if you have someone who only have access to telemetry, you can give them the telemetry ID for that particular user. Say that you know Herbert experienced some weird things last week. You can go to the user card and find Herbert's telemetry ID and give that to the troubleshooter. Now, the troubleshooter can directly from telemetry see what happened for this particular user, but have no idea of whether it's Herbert or Karen or whoever user it is. And then for actual data, we added, you have some new events in 2022 release wave 1. You have telemetry on errors. So you now know if a user got an error dialog, you can see what error message it was, if that error message is privacy compliant. You can also see which users gave feedback on error messages. You can see database wait statistics if you are logging that to telemetry, and you can see if you're getting any database deadlocks. Then some telemetry got added additional dimensions. So any telemetry from log message now also log the company name. The task scheduler telemetry got new dimensions that will make task scheduler telemetry much easier to use. And then maybe the most important is report telemetry now have dimensions for database access intent, which layouts are being used, which document format is being used, and what action the user has taken on that telemetry. So there was a couple of new pieces of signal that was added in minor updates to version 19. The first one is feature telemetry. This allows you to build your own tracking of whether users are using the features you add in apps or extensions. It comes with a sample Power BI dashboard that is located on the normal repository for sample code for telemetry. Task scheduler telemetry was added also in 19.1. So you have ability to track task created, ready, removed, so you can track the life cycle of task scheduler tasks, also the performance of these. The use of read, scale out, and reporting. So that means you can look at whether any reports could go faster and take fewer logs. So there's an ability or possibility to make reports go faster. And then for reporting in version 20, you can learn how users are using reports, which layouts they use, what kind of layouts they use, what actions they take on the request page, and which document formats they prefer to get their documents in. And database deadlocks, you get only data on whoever was victim in a deadlock. In a deadlock, you have two parties. One is the winning session and one is the victim. The victim is the one who doesn't get their SQL workload done, and this is what we log to telemetry. So you know which statement from which AL call stack, and also for on-premises, the SQL Server session ID. Then database weight stats or weight statistics snapshots is something you can use to analyze database bottlenecks. You need two snapshots, like a baseline and a measurement later on, and then you simply take the difference of these different statistics to find out what was the database waiting for, what could be the database bottlenecks in this particular period of time. You can trigger this to telemetry either from the database weight statistics page or the help and support page. Whenever you go into additional logging, the Business Central server will take a snapshot, and when you get 15 minutes later, when that session gets out of additional logging, the Business Central server will take another snapshot as well. And talking about verbose telemetry, when you trigger this additional logging, the actual messages of going into verbose and going out of verbose mode is also logged to telemetry. Then the error telemetry is whenever a user sees an error dialog, this is now logged to telemetry, and you can use that to analyze where your customers struggle. For instance, it could be in onboarding a new customer or a go live or a testing phase that you can analyze this to see, okay, it seems like our users is having a problem here or having a hard time here. Maybe we can do some training. Maybe we have parts of that system that needs to still be set up in a better way. And then we also added the ability for users to vote whether they understand an error message, whether this message was useful, and this is logged to telemetry. So again, you can use that to analyze where customers struggle. Either is maybe that process is hard to understand, or maybe that error message should really be something else. And you also get which language the user was seeing this error messages. So maybe there are bad translations or translations that could be better for the Danish localization compared to the English one. Then in a later minor update, hopefully in 20.1, we'll add also whenever users get a permission error, that will also be logged to telemetry. And again, you can use that to analyze where your users experience permission errors and help getting these issues out of the way. Then a huge thing actually is coming not as a part of Business Central product, but this is a service release. So that's why it's stating April or May 2022, is environment lifecycle and configuration changes. So I think it's something like 60 or 70 different events that we will log to telemetry. Anything related to upgrade, whenever an upgrade is ready or available for an environment, whenever that environment has been validated, when the upgrade has started, completed, or maybe it was failed or timed out, anything related to an environment upgrade, any hotfix that we roll out, any lifecycle events on an environment such as rename, copy, restore, backup, or move to a different AD tenant. And also configuration changes, anything related to the change of a telemetry connection string or any other thing you can do on a configuration of an environment will be logged here. Now this is just the data part, but there's a lot of different uptakes of this, and I'm going to show you one very soon in this presentation of how you can use that data to visualize it. But another big thing you can use this for is to set up alerts on this data, which means that instead of having emails on whenever an environment has been upgraded or started, or an upgrade is available for an environment, you can make these yourself. You can set up an alert on this and you can react however you want. Maybe you want an aggregated message going into a Teams channel on now these particular environments are ready for upgrade. Maybe you want to start a Power Automate flow that does other things. Maybe you want to file a ticket into your ticket system. Anything goes. All of this is documented in Business Central sample repository and with sample code to get you started on that. All right, let's talk about a new thing we are building for Power BI, a click once Power BI app. This is in beta mode right now. We want to adjust as much as possible before we make this available on App Source. But the click once is there. You can use it. It's stable and it's something that updates when you get newer versions. So let me show you what you can do with Business Central Telemetry right now. Okay, so this is the new beta report on Business Central Telemetry. You have to your left 4 categories of usage or different ways to use that data. There's usage of the system, changes to the system, errors happening in the system, and performance-related metrics and analysis on that system or these systems. So as you know, Business Central Telemetry, in a Business Central Telemetry on an Application Insights resource, you can configure multiple environments to log telemetry to that. So the report supports that. Each of these sections have a way to filter on, zoom down on a period in time, and also to zoom into particular environments if you just want to troubleshoot or look at one, not necessarily troubleshoot, or whether you want to view the full population of environments with data in here. So for usage, you can look at when are sessions created, what kind of sessions are they, web services, background, user sessions, and the distribution over the week. So it seems like for this particular example here, that Tuesday is a busy week, so that might be good to know. So sessions is when do people log in, but also when web services log in. What kind of clients are users using? Are they using like what kind of browsers? Are they using desktop or tablet or phone versions? Also, which clients are they using over the weekdays? Maybe some are using the tablets on a Saturday, Sunday, and others are using the desktop during working hours. And also, like how many sessions do they start on different client types? Page views is about which pages users visit or use. You can sort on or filter on count and see them here. You can also see in this particular example we have a lot of different tenants logging. So maybe that graph is hard to use, but you can simply zoom into a particular tenant and then see that, or you can go to this analysis filter and zoom in on a particular tenant in that case. We can see which reports users are using, how many times they use them, what kind of layout they use. Again, what is the report rendering over the weekdays. And then for each of these reports, there is about the report that states what is it that you see, with some links to learn more, and a data foundation of where the data is coming from. Similarly, for the changes, this is actually a peek preview into environments. So here you can see what happens on environment stopped, copy, started, renamed, deleted. You can see that over time, and you can see you can filter directly on different environments. So this is kind of the environment lifecycle. Similarly, company life cycle of when companies were created, renamed, copied, deleted, the life cycle of extensions, when they were installed, updated, uninstalled, and so on. And again, you have about the report, what am I seeing? And the data foundation, if I want to learn more about company lifecycle, so environment lifecycle is to be added. That will be added once we have this TA. But you can go to the documentation of this particular telemetry, or simply go directly and get a copy of the sample code if you want to analyze this further in Application Insights. For these two would probably be for go live or for testing and after live, whereas the errors and the performance could be something where you could maybe, as a partner, have a subscription service or taking care of these environments for customers and have a deal of fixing things. So for errors, we have recommendations here of getting errors to 0. So in here, you would see how many login errors, integrations, failing, system errors, maybe things are not set up correctly, and user errors. Here you can see in this particular example, users have experienced error dialogues 713 times. And I can simply click here and go into that particular part of the error report, which is down here, error dialogues. And I can see which error messages they see and how often they see them. And I can hopefully use that to help them, to help the users get unblocked. And then for performance, the same thing. You can set a filter on which environments, but you can also here filter on code ownership, whether you want to troubleshoot an app source extension, Microsoft code, or maybe a per-tenant extension. You also get recommendations here on known performance anti-patterns, such as reports not using read scale out. You can click here and simply see what are they. Could I maybe make some of these read only and make them faster? And I can, if I don't want to use the recommendations, I can simply drill directly into long-running SQL queries. Where are they coming from? In which AL call stacks are they? What kind of SQL operations are giving me long-running queries? And there's a lot of different options here to dive into different parts of performance for that system. And as with the other example, again, a data foundation of where to learn or analyze further. And also, how do I, if I want to dive into details, what is it that I'm seeing? If I go to, say, go back to this long-running SQL queries, there's also a section how to use this graph. What should I look for that can help me find things I would like maybe to tune on this system? So that's the app. And this is when you install it, it just comes with demo data to explore, like what I showed you. If you want to connect it to your Business Central telemetry resource, you will simply click here to connect your data. And this will allow you to, you need to add, to put in two parameters. The first is the Application Insights application ID. And the second is the lookback period. How long time would you like that data to show data? Let me just pick 30 days. And for the Application Insights application ID, it states here that I need to go to the Azure portal and find the resource, go to API access, and copy it from there. So let's do that. So here I am in a test environment on Application Insights. And if I scroll down to in the menu to the left and find API access here and click that, you can see that there's something here called application ID. So I simply go and copy this to clipboard. And then I go back to my report and I copy this in here. And I click next. Then I need to authorize and authenticate to that particular Application Insights resource. So I sign in and connect. I just need to do that here. And then I go back to my report and I copy this in here. And I click next. Then I need to authorize and authenticate to that particular Application Insights resource. So I sign in and connect. I just need to do that here. And now you're connected. Now this report is refreshing the data from that application insights resource that you have, your data, and you're able to explore that with the app. It might take a few minutes for that to refresh, so I'm not going to wait for that here. But that's kind of how it works. Now, the reason we added this app is some feedback we got from a lot of you partners. Some partners are very much into telemetry and find it to be a really useful tool. And others are struggling with, like, I have enabled telemetry, but how do I really get started? And that's actually why we wanted to build this Click Once app, to make it super simple to get very far with telemetry without having to do a lot of configuration. You just need to enable telemetry on environments and put that app ID into the template report, and that will refresh the data and you're up and running. So how do you join this beta program? How do I get this app? Well, it all is hidden under, not hidden, under our BC Tech, under App Insights. There's a README here for how to get started, especially for the prerequisites. The app is not yet on App Store, so you might need to do a little bit of setup on your Power BI admin portal to be able to install it. And the actual installation URL is simply this one, aka.ms/BC telemetry samples. This will take you here. And then actually it will take you to the root of this. So you need to find this app source. To get to the report and to install and update the report, there's a short similar URL, aka.ms/BC telemetry report. If you type that into a browser, you go and install that template app. If you want to update that template app, you put that URL in and it will update it. And as I showed you, the report comes with sample data and all the instructions are here. Right, let's shift gears a little bit. Once you are comfortable using telemetry with a Power BI report, you might want to do some more advanced troubleshooting. And this is where we developed over the last years some Jupyter notebooks for you to run on particular types of problems. Now, sometimes, and the way you run these is with Azure Data Studio and Python. And some of you might not be comfortable installing these tools. Others might not be able to install these tools. Maybe there are security settings in your organization that says you are not allowed to install Python. So this is where we found a way for you to simply host it in a different way where you don't need to install anything. And that's what GitHub Codespaces is all about. Right, so let me show you how you can host these notebooks instead of running them locally on Azure Data Studio on your laptop. You can simply run them in GitHub Codespaces and not having to install anything. Let me show you. Here I am in github.com/codespaces, and you can see that I already have one codespace here. You can think of a codespace simply as a hosted VM with tools. And the beauty of this is that it can host things that are already on GitHub as a repository. So let's try that. I click New Codespace, and I choose a repository I would like to host code from. In this particular example, I simply choose BC Tech, and I'll just choose the master branch. That's fine. And I create a codespace. This allows me to choose how much machine power I want. I can go from 2 cores, 4 GB RAM, up to 32 cores with a lot of memory. I'll just take the 2 core, should be fine. And this will spin up a virtual machine with GitHub. All right, it took a bit of time for that code space to be deployed, but now we are here. And that code space, I simply pointed that to the GitHub part of the sample site where the Jupyter notebooks are for Business Central. And you can see here I'm running the performance overview notebook directly in the browser in GitHub. And I can run, I don't need to install anything with Python. I can just run the notebook in the code space in the browser and run my analysis. In this particular case, it's the performance analysis notebook. There are probably 5 or 6 different notebooks that you just point to. So it's just a little bit like a NuGet package when you do that when you program in C#. In this particular case, you have a code space, you point to the deployed selection or compilation of notebooks, and then you can run them from there. Codespaces is built by second. So that means that you just pay as you go. It's the current price, or the last time I looked from this, where this screenshot is from, was 18 cents per hour for the smallest option machine, and that would be adequate for any troubleshooting. So if you don't want the hassle of having installed and maintaining any installations of Azure Data Studio, you can just use Codespaces for that. The only thing is that you need a team license for GitHub, which will cost you $4 per user per month, and that will allow you to use Codespaces. So if that's an option for you, you don't need to install anything. If you cannot use team part of GitHub, you can always just go back to the old version of using Azure Data Studio and hosting your notebooks on a local machine. Right, so let's talk about where you can learn more about telemetry and the new things that you just saw. The first thing is, I just want to show you a little bit of change we did to the telemetry documentation to make it much easier to navigate and understand. So let's go to docs and look at that. So as always, the easiest way to go to telemetry documentation is simply to use the short URL, aka.ms/BC telemetry. This will take you directly to docs, to the landing page of telemetry. You can see the telemetry part is much smaller than it has been in the past. There's an overview page here. There's also an overview page of available telemetry for all kinds of, or all different areas. You can see it's sorted by area. If you want to know more about a particular area, you can see whether it's available online, on premises, in extension telemetry, and there's a link directly to that particular class of telemetry. Or you can go and look for the different event IDs here and find out where is that documented, what is this event ID for. So the telemetry by event ID is normally used where if you see an event ID in telemetry, let's say that you see this particular event ID in telemetry, you can simply go to docs and filter by search for that, and it will take you to this page or directly to the page in telemetry that, or in documentation that has this event ID. In this particular case, it was a permission change. So that's that is there. If I go back to the landing page, so the available telemetry is these overview pages. There's the one on enabling, and then for each area here, you can dive into the telemetry by area, or you can have this telemetry by event ID overview as well. So hopefully these 5 pages with a fold-out structure would make it easier for you to navigate our documentation on telemetry. Right, so just an overview of what kind of samples of guidance and code samples you will find in the telemetry samples GitHub repository. I wanted just to highlight this. You can explore that after the session. There's guidance, particular on different videos on how to learn, how to get started. So that's on the top level. There's an FAQ with a lot of answers on privacy, cost reduction, anything you could possibly imagine asking about telemetry is probably there. So go check out the FAQ. The customs integrations is a new part of the guidance. This is where you can learn either if you want to embed telemetry URLs into your app, and when you click on that, they will open up a query in Application Insights portal. Or number two, how to set up custom endpoints. If you want to control that telemetry should not be streamed directly to Application Insights, but go to some proxy that you control, maybe you want to filter it, maybe you want to do something else with it, that's where what you can learn in custom integrations. There's some guidance on how to export data from telemetry into your own data lake using Azure Data Factory. There's some guidance here on how to use Excel to read data. If you were listening in also on the Excel layouts session, you learned a little bit about Power Query. And Power Query is also Application Insights telemetry is a data source in Power Query. So you can query data in Application Insights with Excel or with Power BI using Power Query. Power Automate, if you want to use telemetry in your flows, that's some guidance on that. And then there's a presentation, a PowerPoint deck, if you want to present on telemetry for your peers or for a customer. Then for code samples, under AL, you will find the guidance on how to use feature telemetry and the feature telemetry report. Under alerts, very important, this is where you get code samples and examples of how to set up an alert and send a notification to a different channel. So it's broken down into, you set up a condition of signal you want to alert on. It could be, alert could be every 10 minutes or every hour, I want to check whether any of my environments are available for update. So that's the condition. And then I can use this to send out a notification to a number of channels. I might want to use Flow, Power Automate to send out, to deal with that. I might want to send a text message or an email or create a bug in Jira or in Azure DevOps, whatever you like, and that would be the different channels. KQL is all the samples of different push-to-query language samples on telemetry. Power BI is where you find the source code of the new app. All of that is open source, and also the instructions of how to get started. PowerShell is if you want to read data with PowerShell and do things with it. There's a sample PowerShell script for you to get started. And then the Jupyter troubleshooting guides in Jupyter notebooks are also here, so you can use them if you don't want to use a code space. So the three URLs you need to remember: aka.ms BC telemetry sends you to the documentation, telemetry samples sends you to the sample repository, and telemetry report, it gets you the latest URL to install or update the new Power BI app on telemetry data. So call to action for telemetry for this semester: start using the new app. Make telemetry actionable with a click. Use error telemetry to get your customers unblocked on things that are annoying to them. Start using telemetry to troubleshoot things in the past for given users, this new telemetry ID. I'm pretty sure that will be a very powerful tool. Whenever you get a support ticket in on something that happened last week, you just ask for that telemetry ID. It's compliant and very easy to use. And then if you want to use notebooks but don't want the hassle of installing Azure Data Studio, you can simply use code spaces in GitHub, and you don't need to install any of these tools. So if you like telemetry, you might also be interested in related sessions in this release. It's probably more in the what's new in administration, where if you want to learn more about the new signal on environment changes and everything else related to environment administration, go to that. And if you want to learn more about the new error experience, visit the What's New on Server and Database to see kind of where is this voting for an error message occurring. And with that, I thank you for watching. I sincerely hope that you will start using telemetry more and more in your partner organizations, and especially that you will try it out, the new Power BI app.